Yo, it's your boy. I'm back. Um, no, bit of an explanation, which isn't really an explanation of why I wasn't uploading. I didn't have time, and when I did have time, I didn't feel like it. So, yeah, that's really my only excuse for not uploading. Second of all, those who have noticed, if not, whatever, I have deleted every single series that I have created up until now because I've never finished one. Now, me doing this is going to make it easier for me to start on one series. I'm going to try to start one series at least and finish said series before starting another one. And I figured before I do any series that I really like the idea of, I figured I would try to make what if Itachi was in Mushoku Tensei, or Jobless Reincarnation. Now, I am aware that I have tried to make Rudeus what ifs, which have never ended very well, or been very good, because of my lack of my attention span issue, and the fact that I can never remember a lot of amounts of information. Now, instead of just trying to one-shot all of these, what I might try to do is do 2 or 3 episodes in one part of my what if from the show / manga that I haven't read yet, but I probably will at some point, maybe. Anyhow, this is what if Itachi was in Mushoku Tensei. Yeah. We're going to begin this what if as we see a black-haired man sitting upon a throne of sorts. He would be wearing a cloak with red clouds and have his 2 arms hanging out front of the cloak. He would have his eyes, which would be red with black tomo, 3 black tomo within them. He would have a headband upon his head with a black cloth and a silver plating on it, on the front of it, that would have a symbol on it with a scratch going through it. This man would be Itachi Uchiha. Now, as we go into this scene, we see Itachi looking down upon a boy that looks similar to him, except younger and a different hairstyle. As Itachi would say, "So you have finally come, Sasuke. It sure took you a while, but what will I expect from my foolish little brother?" As Sasuke would glare up at Itachi. He would then say, "Itachi, I've festered my hatred for you. I've killed Orochimaru. I believe that I am prepared to kill you now." Itachi would look down at his brother with an expressionless face. As Itachi would say, "Those Sharingan, what is it that you can see?" Sasuke would answer, "I see your death at my hands." As Itachi would look up with a smirk on his face, as he would say, "Very well then, we shall see, my foolish little brother." As he would vanish, seemingly, and appear behind Sasuke, drawing a kunai, bringing it towards Sasuke's head, as Sasuke would turn and block it with his Kusanagi sword. they would both jump back as Sasuke would begin to throw shuriken at him. Itachi would throw shuriken as well as kunai, at high speeds, deflecting each other's projectiles perfectly, as if it was some sort of dance. Hours later, we see Itachi Uchiha with a red aura around him, as he would be slowly walking towards a fear-stricken Sasuke. Sasuke would be backing up towards a wall, as he would be stopped. Itachi would make his way over to his little brother, as he would have his two fingers pointed towards him. He would raise it up. Sasuke would close his eyes, expecting something bad, but he would feel a poke on his forehead. Opening his eyes, he would see Itachi with his two fingers on Sasuke's forehead, like that of when they were children. Itachi would have a smile on his face as he would say, "Sorry, Sasuke, but this is it." As he would still be smiling, he would be leaning forward, seemingly, only to hit his head against the wall next to Sasuke. He would slide down said wall and fall to the floor on his back, still lying there with a smile on his face. Sasuke would be sitting there with a shocked look, but it would immediately turn expressionless, as blood would come from one of his eyes, and he would fall over next to his brother. Months later, we see Itachi Uchiha, as he would be walking towards Sasuke. He would have a light coming off of him, as he would be slowly walking towards his little brother, in the same gesture like that of months ago when they had fought. As he would reach his little brother, he would bring his hand around Sasuke's head, bringing their foreheads together, as he would say, "Remember, Sasuke, no matter what you do, I will love you always." As that light that was around his body would shine even brighter, as a seemingly a spirit of Itachi would be flying from the corpse that he had been possessing, as he would be looking down at his little brother with a smile on his face, as he would proceed to vanish, seemingly. Now, minutes later, screaming would be heard, as Itachi would be hearing these screams, but he wouldn't know what was going on. Now, as he would try to open his eyes, a bright light would be seen from Itachi. He would close his eyes immediately to try to adjust to the lighting of the room. He would glance around to see strange surroundings. He would be looking up to see a blonde-haired woman with green eyes, as well as a blonde-haired man with green eyes. He would be looking at them curiously. He would raise his hand, trying to reach towards the woman, only to see that his hand was small. He would look down at his hand to see that it was that of a child, an infant. As Itachi would be thinking of what had happened after the Edo Tensei had been released, he would just bring his hand back down. Zooming out a bit, we would see the man and the woman speaking the language and holding a boy with blonde hair and green eyes. He would be trying to listen to what they were saying, only to not understand. Now, as this would be happening, we would go to another dimension to see a woman with white hair and pale eyes and a slit along her forehead. This woman would have long white hair, seemingly going all the way down to her feet, and an oversized kimono. This woman would be Kaguya Otsutsuki. She would be looking down at a small orb. As the orb would reveal memories of Itachi Uchiha. She would be sitting in a white space, looking at said orb, as she would have a small smile on her face. She would say to herself, Uchiha Itachi, one of the only humans to not use my chakra irresponsibly, and forced into a world of war, something that you obviously did not prefer. Yet you adapted, and you just continued throughout life. I shall give you another chance at life, dear child. And whatever happens next, I hope to see that you will never change, and still remain the kind child that I can see that you are. As we go back to Itachi, 2 years later, after having been born into this new world, Itachi as an infant, or a toddler, really, would be walking the house. With a blank expression on his face. He would look around. He would see a red-haired woman dressed in a maid's uniform. This being... I can't remember her name. One moment. Her name would be Lilia. Her name would be Lilia Greyrat. She would be the maid of the Greyrat family. She would look over to see Itachi, looking at her with a blank expression. She would give a smile towards young Itachi. Itachi would return the smile with his own kind smile, similar to that of his old life. Lilia would be quite happy by this, but also surprised at how strange this child would have been behaving. I apologize for that random bit of silence. Anyhow, we time skip about 2 years later. We see Itachi as he would be 4 years old now. He would be looking over a blonde-haired little boy with green eyes, similar to that of himself. He would be looking down at the boy as the boy would have a pair of women's underwear on his head, giving off a perverted, lecherous grin with a large blush spread across his face. Itachi would be frowning at his little brother, Rudeus, who was born a few months after his 4th birthday. Now, Rudeus was a strange child. Over the few months that he had gained the ability to crawl, he had done strange things, like that of stealing his mother's and as well as the maid's undergarments and putting them on his head, while also showing a strange curiosity that most children would not have at his age. Itachi would have found his little brother, exploring all around the house in places that he would never have expected Rudeus to get into. Itachi would remove the undergarments from his little brother's head as he would poke Rudeus's forehead, as he would say, "Foolish little brother." I am not sure why you do what you do, but you shall surely be an interesting case to watch. As I'm sorry about that. Anyhow, as that blonde woman, that of Itachi and Rudeus's mother, would arrive behind Itachi. This woman's name would be Zenith Grey Rat, the matriarch of the Grey Rat family. Well, this branch of it, at least. Zenith would smile at her 2 sons as she would pick up Rudeus. Itachi would look at his mother and say, "Mother." Zenith would look over and say, "Yes, Itachi." Itachi would say, "Perhaps you should check what specifically is wrong with Rudeus." Doing such things at his age is very strange. It was not normal. It is not normal. Zenith would then say, "Oh, but Itachi, you did pretty much the same thing minus the panty stealing." Itachi would look at his mother and say, "Must you be so blunt all the time?" She would look at her son and say, "Don't be so stiff, Itachi. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of bluntness between family." Itachi would look down, seemingly pondering what she had just said, as he would just look at his mother a bit deadpanned, as if she was stupid or something. She would sweat drop as she would just say, "Oh, well, look at the time. It's time to go feed your little brother." As she would run inside the house, Itachi would shake his head. He would feel his hand on his shoulder as he returned to see his father, Paul Greyrat, one of the best adventurers in this new world, though not much information is known about him at the moment. Itachi would smile at his father, as Paul would say, "Hey, Itachi, how about we have a little spar?" Itachi would smile and say, "Sure thing, father," as Paul would hand Itachi a sword, a wooden sword, as Paul would bring up his own, as Paul would begin to dash at Itachi, going for a strike to his left side. Itachi would block it with ease. He would then bring his own sword, as he would go for multiple different slashes at different angles. Paul would be astonished by the style that Itachi would use with his blade, since it is not the style that he taught him, or has been teaching him. His style was that of the Anbu, but Paul wouldn't know this, of course. Itachi would dash at his father, who had jumped backwards to dodge an attack, as Paul would be astonished at his 4-year-old son's speed, but he would just chalk it up to his own ego and pride that it is his son, so of course he'd be strong. Itachi would go for a strike to Paul's shoulder. Paul would block it and force Itachi back with his strength, causing Itachi to fly backwards slightly, but he would dig the wooden sword's end into the ground and drag it as he would stabilize it into the ground. He would then use he would use Anbu, or maybe Chunin or Genin level of agility to prop himself up on the handle of the sword from the ground, like that of if you have seen Naruto, which of course you wouldn't watch this video if you haven't, the way he was sitting on the pole before he slaughtered the Uchiha clan. Itachi would be watching as Paul would dash at him, going for another attack. Itachi would raise himself up on his hands and boost himself upwards, releasing the handle of his wooden sword, dodging the slash that his father would have sent towards him with his own wooden sword, training sword or whatever. Itachi would land back on the handle as he would spin around and kick Paul in the chest, causing Paul to go back slightly. Itachi would touch the ground as he would pull his blade, or his wooden training sword, as it would block an attack from Paul. They would be standing there, looking at each other, with their swords still against each other. as Paul would smile and say, "Very good, Itachi. You are very, very skilled for your age." As Itachi would smile and say, "Thank you, father," as he would bow, he would place the sword in the rack as he would walk back inside, looking down sadly. But his father or anyone else watching wouldn't have noticed, except for one who was watching, Rudeus. Rudeus would be... We go to the point of view of Rudeus, as he would have been watching the entire fight. He would have been astonished at his elder brother's skill and whatnot. Sorry. As Rudeus would be thinking to himself, a deep voice could be heard in his mind as he would say, "Wow, Itachi's pretty skilled. In this new world, everything is so new to me, but something about Itachi. Itachi seems so similar to me, as if he's lived a life before. But I'll have to keep that to myself for now. Well, not like I can tell anybody since I'm still a baby. Man, I just want to grow up already. Though being a baby has some perks." As a blush and a perverted grin would appear on Rudeus' face, as he would giggle pervertedly like that of Jiraiya. Itachi would then... We go back to Itachi now, as he would have walked in the house a bit downcast. He would have been thinking of when he was a child in his previous life, being praised by his father and all of the others of the Uchiha clan for being that of a prodigy, a genius. He used to like being praised to an extent, but after a while it got tiring. To be praised for being skilled at killing was something that he didn't like very much anymore. After experiencing war firsthand at the young age of 4 or older, I don't remember specifically, but present Itachi would just shake away those thoughts as he would return to his room and sleep for the next day. We time skip. About 4 years later, Itachi is at the age of 8, while Rudeus is the age of 4. Now, Rudy is being taught magic. Well, he's going to be taught magic, at least. Over the years, Itachi has grown exponentially, bearing the same resemblance to that of his previous life, with those marks on his face, as well as long, silky blonde hair, in the same style of him as when he was an Anbu. Two bangs on each side of his face, revealing his forehead. He would have a long ponytail, somewhat long ponytail going down his back, but not too long. Same as how it was when he was an Anbu. He would be dressed in a black long sleeve, along with black pants, and whatever type of shoes that they had in that world. He would keep his hair tied up most of the time. His green eyes would have that same serious and war-hardened look, or battle-hardened look, but he would make it softer so that his parents wouldn't ask any sort of questions about it. Itachi would find himself looking down at his little brother, who would have short blonde hair and two bangs framing his face as well. His forehead would be shown, but his hair would still be really short compared to Itachi's. He would be wearing a white shirt and a red vest with, a red shirt with a brown vest and red shorts. A white shirt with a brown vest and red shorts, along with brown boots. He would be looking up at his elder brother, as he would say, "Itachi." Itachi would smile at his brother, as he would say, "Yes, Rudy." Rudeus would say, "Do you think you can tell me how to be as strong as you? I mean, you're really good with a sword, like father, but somewhat better." As Itachi would look down at his brother, as he would poke him on the forehead and say, "Sorry, little brother, but I have things to do. Maybe next time." As Rudeus would nod and run off. Itachi had started doing that instinctively once Rudy got old enough to speak. At first, when he did it, it would pain his heart, reminding him of Sasuke. But over time, he would have gotten over it. Itachi would leave his home as he would walk throughout the small village that he and his family lived in. Everybody would smile at Itachi, waving at him and thanking him for certain chores and work that he has done throughout the village. Itachi is the most loved child within the village. Itachi would walk past a large carriage as he would see into it, revealing a blue-haired girl in a strange attire with a large brown hat over her head and a cloak of sorts with shorts, carrying a large staff, or whatever it is. Itachi isn't very well versed within magic, but he is capable of using it, incantationless like that of his brother, though he kept this a secret, as he didn't want all the attention taken away from his younger brother, like that of his previous life. As Itachi would just walk past, the blue-haired girl that was in the carriage would look to see Itachi, as she would have a questioning look on her face as she would be thinking about who that was. And that it was similar to the description of who she was supposed to be teaching. Itachi would continue to walk out throughout the village and help people with anything that they had to do. Itachi being able to live such a peaceful life would have been ecstatic, though he wouldn't have shown it, but to be capable of living a life that he never got the chance to do because of how war-stricken his world was. Is a dream that he had always had, but to be able to live it out now made him truly happy. And he would also always hope that his little brother Sasuke would be doing well. Hours later, we see Itachi Uchiha, or Itachi Grey Rat, as he would enter his home to see Rudeus sitting at the dinner table, along with Paul, Zenith, and Lilia, and that blue-haired girl that he saw. Itachi would sit down at the dinner table as he would say, "Hello, mother, father, I am home." Paul and Zenith would look at Itachi and smile and say, "Welcome home. What were you doing all day?" Itachi would smile and say, "The same thing I always do. I went around the village to see if anybody needed assistance with their homes or any sort of work." Paul would rub his son's head, or ruffle his son's hair, as Paul would say, "You know, son, for someone that of your age, you are extremely mature and you like to be helpful. I'm proud of you for that." Itachi would smile and nod, as Zenith would then clap her hands together and say, "Oh, right, Roxy, I didn't introduce you to yet. This is Itachi, Rudeus' older brother, our firstborn," as Roxy would look at Itachi and nod at him. Itachi would nod as well, giving her a small smile, as Roxy would be thinking to herself, "Interesting. He seems strong. While he might not show it, he has strength." As we go back to Itachi, he would look at his brother and say, "Rudeus, how has the magic been going?" Rudeus would smile at his elder brother and say, "It's going great, Itachi. I'm still able to do it without saying those words or whatever." Itachi would smile as he would say, "Very good, little brother. While I do still apologize for not being able to teach you, you are very skilled, and always know I am proud of you." As we go to the perspective of Rudeus, in his adult voice, if you will, he would be thinking, "Wow, I never thought being praised would feel this good. Being praised by Zenith and Paul is one thing, but being praised by Itachi, that just feels amazing. Man, I might just give up my perverted and lecherous ways just because of being praised by my elder brother." As he would chuckle and say, "No, that's not true. I would never." Itachi would ruffle his younger brother's hair as he would finish eating and head upstairs, as he would say, "Mother, father, I'm going to sleep now. Let me know if you need anything." His mother and father would nod as Itachi would go to sleep that night, having to sleep through the sound of his mother and father procreating. His father getting up in the guts, as I would like to phrase it. But that's not important. That's not important at all. We continue now. About a month later, we see Rudeus learning more magic as he would shoot off a fireball. As Rudeus would smile, and Itachi would look at his younger brother. He would say, "Very good, little brother." Roxy would be there as well, as Itachi would smile and say, "Well, I'm off today. Continue trying. You'll get even better with practice," as he would walk off throughout the village. Now, over this month, Rudeus has gained even more skill than in canon with magic, as Itachi being there to praise him and assist him would have given him even more motivation to get stronger and learn new things. Roxy would also be trying to get stronger as well, because of Itachi's presence and because of Rudeus' skill. Itachi would be walking throughout the village, once more helping all of the others. He would walk over to a clearing, as he would be searching for something that he seemingly forgot about, but he wanted to see if he still had. And if not, then it won't be much of a problem. Itachi would sit down in a meditative position, as he would close his eyes. He would then begin to search deep within his body, his character, his soul, as he would be searching for his chakra. Itachi would feel something, but it wouldn't be chakra. It would be his mana. Though there would be something else, specific, a pull into his eyes, a strange feeling, a tingling sensation, as Itachi would open his eyes, revealing the two-tomo Sharingan. As Itachi would be quite astonished at the fact that his Sharingan would be still there, and quite ecstatic to know that he still had some sort of connection to his previous life, other than his mind. Itachi would stand up as he would be observing the world around him. Though his eyes seemed rather different. He would have some sort of strange foresight ability, as he would observe strange flying creatures in the air, similar to that of birds, but they had appearances of weasels or rabbits. Maybe a mixture of all three. Itachi would see outlines of movements from each thing that he observed, while his Sharingan would still have the same ability like that of his prediction and capability to observe and copy, along with the photographic memory. He would also have an even more improved a prediction ability, like that of foresight. Itachi would then raise his hand, as he would channel mana into it. Fire would appear into his hand, as it wouldn't burn. He would send it towards a small animal, as it would hit it dead set on the target. Itachi would smile as he thinks that he would be able to gain his original strength and even further heights, since he did not have that disease holding him back any longer. Itachi would then go home, deactivating his eyes. We time skip around. Hold on one moment. So, I'm trying to think. It's been a minute since I've watched Mushoku Tensei's original beginning episodes, so I don't completely remember everything. About 2 years later, Itachi would be the age of 10 now, while Rudeus would be the age of 6. It would be his birthday, as he would be given a wand from Roxy, and some other things from his father and mother, as well as Lilia. Itachi, over the years, has gained more height, as he is about 5'1", 5'3", 5 feet and 3 inches. I think that's how that is. I don't know. Anyhow, Itachi would be standing in front of a group of boys picking on a little girl with bright green hair and red eyes. I believe her eyes were red, though I could be mistaken. No, her eyes are green. Anyhow. Oh, that's not good. Anyhow. As Itachi would be watching over them, Itachi would send a couple of rocks at the necks of the little boys, hitting them dead on the mark. The boys would look over at Itachi, as Itachi would give a disapproving look, as he would say, "Children should not pick on others, or others should not pick on others in general. The fact that I have caught you trying to pick on this young girl is very despicable. I am extremely disappointed, and I will be informing your parents about this." As the children would all run away, Itachi would stand in front of the little girl, as Itachi would kneel down and say, "Hello there, what is your name?" Oh no, you know what, I'm tripping. No, Rudeus is 8. That's what I'm missing. No, he was 8. That's my bad. It's been a lot more years than 2, so this would make Itachi about 14 or 15. Yeah. Itachi would kneel down in front of the girl as he would say, "What is your name, young one?" She would look up at Itachi as she would say, "My name is Sylphy, Sylphiette." As Itachi would smile as he would say, "Well, we shall get you cleaned up. It's no good to leave a girl. It's no good to leave such a pretty young girl out here, all dirty in the mud." Now, for you all any getting ideas, no, he didn't mean it like that. Alright, calm down. It's not that kind of party. Anyhow, Itachi would be walking back to his home with Sylphy on her back. Well, Sylphy on his back, sorry. As they'd be walking, Sylphy would be smiling slightly, as she's heard about Itachi, but never really met him as she's new to this village with her family. Itachi would look back at her and say, "You know, I have a little brother that should be around the same age as you. I'm sure you two would get along quite well. Though, I would warn you, my little brother is a bit peculiar. He has his quirks, but he's a good child." Sylphy would nod at that, but Itachi would make his way back home with Sylphy on his back. As he would enter, his mother, Zenith, would look at Itachi and see the girl on his back and say, "Oh dear, what happened, Itachi?" Itachi would then say, "A couple of boys of the village were bullying her. She was dirty, so I would suggest that she would take a bath. But I would recommend that you do it, if you do not mind, mother." Zenith would smile at her son and say, "There's no problem, dear." Itachi would look back at Sylphy and say, "Do not worry. My mother is very kind and gentle. She will not harm you." As Sylphy would nod and get off of Itachi's back. My apologies. I lost my train of thought again. Anyhow, after this situation would happen, over the next few months, Rudeus and Sylphy would have met and become friends. Best of friends. While Rudeus would have taught Sylphy magic after Roxy had left from teaching him, Sylphy would have learned magic. While not as good as Rudeus, she would still have some sort of skill with it. Itachi would be sitting there on a tree branch above his little brother and his friend Sylphy, smiling down at them, but they would not know he was there. He would be sitting there with his arms crossed, just looking down at his little brother and his friend, genuinely happy with his life. Ooh, sorry, I got a pain in my leg for a second. That almost made me pass out. Sorry about the noises. I am a bit sick, but whatever. Now, over time, Rudeus would have told his parents that he wanted to adventure and get a job so that he could take care of Sylphy. His parents would have said no originally, but after being persuaded by Itachi, or being persuaded by Rudeus, we see Itachi and Paul in a room, separated from all others in the house, as Paul would be sitting there in a chair, looking at his son, as Itachi would say, "Father, I have requested that I must go with Rudeus. For protection, of course, while I am aware that he can protect himself, knowing magic. I would prefer to keep him safe, as he is my little brother. I would kill anyone that would harm him." Paul would smile at his son and say, "You know, Itachi, I've told you this many, many times, but I am truly proud of you and proud to have you as my son. You are very skilled and mature, but other than that, you are kind. You are not arrogant because you have skill. You continue to help others, and that I can respect. So, I would request that you definitely make sure that your younger brother is safe while he tutors his cousin Eris in magic." We're now going to time skip. 2 months later. Rudeus has not gotten the job just yet, but it will be happening soon. It's winter, currently. Everybody would be sitting at the dinner table, as Lilia would have a guilty look on her face. Itachi would then look at her, seeing the guilty look on her face, but it wouldn't have been noticed by any others. This is when Itachi would say, "Lilia." Lilia would perk up immediately, a bit startled by the sudden call out of her name, but she would look at Itachi as Itachi would say, "Please, tell me, what troubles you? You seem worried, guilty about something. What's wrong?" Lilia would then sigh, as she would feel a bit better that it was brought to attention so she could get it off her chest. Lilia would then say, I'm pregnant," as everybody would stop eating immediately. Itachi would be looking at Lilia with a very hard look, narrowed eyes and all, as he would say, "Whose child is it?" "Depending on your answer, I will harm somebody in this room. That someone may or may not have the ability to procreate afterwards." As Paul would then say, it's probably mine." Itachi would send a harsh glare towards his father, as he would then say, "You, what? You're telling me that you cheated on mother, and proceeded to have a child with the maid of the family?" Paul would gulp and nod, as Itachi would say, "You are lucky I'm very calm, or I would castrate you on the spot." as Zenith would have tears in her eyes. Paul would then say, "You can't speak to me like that, Itachi. I'm your father. I know I made a mistake, but before Paul could finish, Itachi would have vanished. Everybody would be looking at Itachi's spot for a moment before hearing a thud and a crash, as everybody would look over to see a window broken. Itachi would be standing over Paul outside, as Paul would have a few glass shards from the broken window in his arm. He would be looking up at his son in fear, as Itachi would draw his sword that he had on his back at all times, unless he was sleeping. Itachi's sword would be rather thin and long, but still rather short as well, so not to be too long. Itachi would point his sword at his father's neck as he would say, "Give me one good reason why I should not kill you on the spot." Paul would then say, I'm your father, Itachi. You can't do that. I raised you." Itachi would look at Paul as he would say, "You may have raised me, father, but you have disgraced your name by doing what you did. While studying about certain adventurers, I did hear about your antics, though I chose not to believe them. But this situation today has proved such antics were correct. You liked to sleep with a lot of women. You probably have a few more kids out there, but that's not important right now. The fact is that you are married to Mother, yet you still continued your antics. So, if you cannot give me a valid reason why I should not kill you or castrate you, then I shall do both. While doing the former." As Paul would gulp, Zenith would run outside and yell out Itachi's name as he would look back. Zenith would have tears in her eyes as she would say, "Stop. Okay, not right now. We need to think about what to do." Itachi would walk to his mother after sheathing his sword and glaring at his father. He would walk to his mother, as since he's older, he's actually a lot taller now. He's about 5'9", taller than his mother, still a bit shorter than his father. Itachi would pull his mother into a hug, as she would be sobbing. Lilia would have a guilty look and a few tears in her eyes as Itachi would bring out his other arm towards her. Zenith would walk over slowly as Itachi would bring her into the embrace as well. Itachi would then say, "Do not worry. You will be fine. Lilia, you are not in trouble. While it is a possibility that you did something, Paul is always going to be at fault for this." Itachi would then... We're going to time skip. Never mind. We're going to time skip. About a week later. The problem had been solved by Rudeus, doing what he did in canon and saying that it was all Paul's fault, not to blame Zenith. We see Rudeus and Itachi as they would be in a cart. Well, Rudeus would be unconscious, while Itachi would be sitting next to him, looking in front as a woman with grayish brown hair, or tannish hair, really, I don't know, and dark skin, along with a pair of wolf ears and a tail. This woman's name would be Ghislaine, one of the adventurers that his father and mother would have worked together with. Ghislaine would be looking at Itachi, calculatingly, with her one eye, as she would say. Itachi, gray rat, right? Itachi would nod, as Ghislaine would say, I have heard that you are skilled with your sword, that you use a strange style, but are very proficient and efficient. Itachi would nod, as he would say, and I have heard about you, sword god, that you are one of the most skilled swordsmen out there. It is very intriguing to know that you are strong. It is very intriguing to know of your achievements, and the fact that you will be accompanying us on Rudeus's job. While I do appreciate it, I will ask this one question. Did you sleep with Paul? Ghislaine would nod as Itachi would scowl, or frown. Itachi doesn't scowl. Itachi barely shows any emotion as it is, anyhow, but Itachi would frown, as he would say, another reason to despise that man. He has lost my respect as my father. Stirring could be heard, as Rudeus would have woken up after fighting Paul and being knocked out. Rudeus would look up to see Ghislaine, as he would say, hello, who are you? Ghislaine would say, name's Ghislaine. I'm supposed to come with you on your job to tutor that, kid. Rudeus would nod as he would look around, only to see his elder brother, Itachi. No, Itachi, to describe him, he still has the same hairstyle and everything. He has a black cloak, like that of Sasuke from Boruto, while he has a black long-sleeve shirt under, and black pants with black shoes. He carries his sword on his back, somewhat like that of a wakizashi, and a katana mixed together, if you will. Though I'm not sure how that would work, it's not important right now. Itachi would have a small necklace around his neck. It would have brown leather on it, while it would also have a small stone on it that would be purple in color. This would be a mana stone that Rudeus had found while on one of his explorations, going farther out from the village. He had given it to Itachi as a birthday present. Now, Itachi would have some leather armor on certain areas of him, like his shins and his arms, along with his chest and back. His armor would be similar to that of his Anbu attire, if you will. His cloak would also be high collar, going up to the top of his top lip. Itachi would just be looking at his brother, as Rudeus would say, Itachi, what are you doing here? Itachi would say, Rudeus. Oh, one moment. Yeah. About 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Yeah. Sure thing. Don't know. Over here. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Alright. Okay. Bye. I apologize for the interruption. I had a phone call. Anyhow, Itachi would look at his younger brother and say, well, I'm simply here to accompany you on your job. For protection, of course. While Galen is strong, I will only trust myself with your protection and your safety. Rudeus would nod, a bit dumbly, as this would be the end of this part of What If Itachi Was in Mushoku Tensei. I hope you enjoyed, and if you didn't, well, I apologize for that. And since people can't dislike anymore, well, they can, but it won't show me anything, which is extremely irritating. I guess I won't know how well I did. Unless someone tells me in the comments. I hope you all have a nice rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.